So small group, but this is Cody. He is from R&M Piper Incorporated, and they do industrial bridges and site work and things like that, and he's going to just talk to you guys about that, and if you have questions you can ask. Yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Cody McGraw. I'm a superintendent with R&M Piper. Like I said, we have a particular focus on roads and bridges. We do other excavation and masonry work, but our primary thing is to be in the road. I come from a carpentry background. I started as a form carpenter, building concrete forms. I've been with the company this will be my 5th season. This is the 2nd year that I'm doing this outreach program. I started in the spring doing a couple of classroom things like this. I went down to Construction Career Days in New Boston. Did you guys go to that as a program? No? It's kind of like a job fair, but it's very hands-on. They have equipment that you can run. They have different job site simulations that you can participate in. It was a cool program, but we went down and had a little booth. We were breaking up concrete with a jackhammer, just as something to do. But yeah, so this is the 2nd year of this outreach program that I'm doing. And I am obviously here representing my company, but I'm just talking to you as a guy that works construction. Feel free to ask any questions that come up, whether it be about slides or me or the company. I'm going to share my perspective with you and talk about experiences and observations that I make in the industry, because I think it's a great industry. It's really worthwhile work, and there's a ton of opportunity there. Do you guys have any questions before we get going? No? So to start off, the mission statement at R&M Piper, we take great pride in the work we do. Our primary goal is to provide meaningful employment with a strong commitment to integrity, quality, and safety for our crews. With this purpose and focus, we shall deliver quality construction in a safe, professional, and timely manner for our clients. We've been in business for over 40 years. We've always been a staple in the Plymouth area and in the construction industry in New Hampshire. We've completed nearly $200 million in contract work everywhere from Pittsburgh to Portsmouth, and right now we have somewhere around $12 million in bonded contracts currently operating. So there's plenty of work to go around. Big thing I like to talk about, for you guys that are about to enter the workforce, I think job security is something that you should be taking into consideration. A couple questions to ask yourself when you're looking at an employer or a field of work. Big topic that's been relevant the last few years is essential work. Is it something that's going to continue if there's a pandemic, if there's an unforeseen circumstance? Is it work that's going to have to continue no matter what, which bridge and road construction certainly is. And another thing is how long are you going to want to do the job that you get hired for? Is there room within the company to move around? Can you switch tasks if you're not feeling satisfied with what you're doing? And is there room for growth and promotion, if you're ready to bite off another chunk of responsibility? The biggest source of job security that we have as a bridge company is what we call the Red List. The Red List is a list compiled by the Department of Transportation. It lists in order the bridges in the state that are deemed either insufficient or compromised and are therefore in need of replacement or repair. As of January 1st, there's 328 red listed bridges in the state of New Hampshire alone. Each year as an industry, we fix about 40 of those, but each year about 33 new ones get added to the list. If you think about it, infrastructure as a whole is a relatively recent thing. Roadways and cars have really just become popular in the last 100 years. We've built a lot of these things, and so a lot of them are kind of coming up on their expiration date at the same time, which means that there's like an overwhelming amount of work for a very small amount of people to do. And on top of the red list, which is things that are already existing that need fixing, something big that's coming down the pike, causing a lot of buzz in the industry, is the Big Bow Concord Highway Expansion Project. I'm sure everybody has sat in traffic where it bottlenecks down to 2 lanes in Concord there. On a Friday afternoon, you can sit halfway to Massachusetts and standstill traffic. And on Sundays, it's the same coming southbound. That project is going to have, within the limits of it, there's 33 bridge specific projects, whether that's repair, replacement, or adding new bridges. And the project as a whole is going to wear a price tag somewhere in the ballpark of $370 million. And of that work and the red list work that I talked about, R.M. Piper is one of only 7 pre-qualified primary contractors in the state that's able to bid on that work. So there's a ton of it out there, and not very many people that can actually go out and get it. And at R.M. Piper, we value promoting from within. There are opportunities aplenty for motivated individuals, and I'm speaking from experience on this one. Like I mentioned, I got hired as a carpenter. Just, this is my 5th season. I became the grade foreman pretty quickly, and now I'm a superintendent. So I went from building concrete forms to running entire jobs in just a handful of years. I still build concrete forms, but I do a lot of other stuff now. And so this next slide is actually going to show a red list project that I worked on this past fall. There was a culvert in Rumney, New Hampshire, just west of Plymouth. It's a little town. Buffalo Road is the name of the road that the project was on. And there was a 14-foot culvert pipe that was deemed compromised, that it was undermined. A lot of the creek water was actually running under the pipe. It was washing sediment down into the Baker. So it was a project that the town wanted to get done. They wanted the pipe taken out and replaced with a concrete box culvert. And so the video I'm about to show you was like the first milestone of that project. We had to excavate down 20 feet, give or take, to get access to remove the pipe. So this shows when we got to it, removing it and demolishing it on our way to getting to subgrade and rebuilding the new box culvert. Sorry, excuse me. So like I said, that pipe's 14 feet wide, was about 75 feet long. It weighed about 12,000 pounds. And you can see the guy was cutting holes with a demo saw so that we could access it with chains to get wrapped around it and pick it up.
Of it to know that it won't collapse when you pick it up?
It was the pipe itself was actually very sturdy still. It was the undermining that was really the problem with it. But it's a pre-tension corrugated steel. There's actually a ton of tension in it. If you were to slice it all the way from end to end, it would actually burst open. There's a ton of pressure inside that stuff because of the angle of it. But it was a very sound piece of structure still. I say that, but this was a subcontractor came in from New Hampshire Demolition with a shear on an excavator, and he chewed it up like a tin can in about 2 hours. Certainly made it look pretty easy. Some highlights I wanted to go over that apply to working with R.M. Piper. The pay rate, it starts out really well. It's $20 an hour for no experience, necessary labor. There's actually a $5 an hour incentive if you're doing demolition, which, especially on that red list stuff, doing bridge deck repair, there's a lot of jackhammering out concrete, replacing rebar, repouring concrete. Those demolition crews work long hours, and like I said, you get a $5 an hour incentive on top of your 20, which is 25 bucks an hour. That's like $1,000 a week if you're just working 40 hours. But really the thing I get excited to tell people about is the benefits, because in construction they can be really hit or miss. Holidays aren't as much of a thing. You have a kind of a limited working season, and so it's kind of ingrained in a construction worker that you make hay when the sun shines, and you're working as long as you can, as long as the weather allows. We do actually have paid holidays. We have an earned time program. For every 40 hours you work, you get an hour of earned time that you can use at your discretion. If you want to take a day off, you want to go fishing, you want to go on a date. There's insurance and opt-out pay if you choose to not have insurance. There's gas reimbursement if you're working more than 50 miles from home. You get paid back, it changes by mileage, but you get a certain amount of gas paid for. There's referral bonuses if you get a job and you decide you want to bring a friend in that also needs a job. You get $750 in a referral bonus for bringing somebody else onto the crew. But the biggest one is we do a company-wide shutdown for the week of 4th of July every year. And that's, everybody has the time down. You can plan ahead, you can buy plane tickets, you can travel. My wife and I will be going to San Diego this year. We went to Germany last year. And that's something exciting because as a construction worker, a summertime vacation is forever, has not been a thing. But we found we're actually getting more man hours worked in the summertime, even with that week down, because I think we found that people are excited to go to work. It helps you out, it fills your reservoir, makes you willing to work the overtime and do what it takes to get the jobs done when you get back from that. One other thing, the sweet merch that is listed there, that is to say we have access to all the best safety gear and personal protection equipment, but we also just get showered in Piper gear. We have hats and t-shirts and sweatshirts, coffee mugs. I have like a lawn chair that's from R&M Piper. There's 5-gallon buckets. It's never ending, and it seems kind of silly on the surface, but it's a huge thing because, especially the clothing. Our line of work is really hard on your clothes, and the ability to just go into the office and say, hey, I need a couple long sleeve, fluorescent shirts, and they just hand them over, no questions asked. It saves you money, and they do it because you're representing the company and you should be comfortable and look presentable. If you look in the next video I'm about to show you, you'll actually see a bunch of Piper shirts scurrying around. This is going to be like a part 2 of that pipe you saw get removed a minute ago. This was actually the crane day when we were assembling the box culvert that went in to replace that pipe. And so you can see these are the stem walls that we poured that this precast structure is going on top of. That's about the elevation that pipe was at, to picture it in perspective. So we had to excavate down 8 feet roughly from when we took the pipe out. We poured footers, poured those stem walls. We reconstructed that whole creek channel with big Class 6 riprap, just 2 to 3 foot angular stone, and then washed in stream bed material, so you can see there's actually round rocks in the bottom, so it just looks more natural. All right, so that was, that whole video took place in actually a relatively short 8-hour day. There was 14 components that went into building that box culvert, and it went off without a hitch. It was actually a really smooth day. There was no yelling, there was no mishaps, and the biggest part of why that was because there was an extensive amount of communication that went into that. We had to call back and forth with the dispatcher at the precast plant. All those structures were made off-site down in Henniker with Mitchie Corporation as a subcontractor we work with a lot. they had built all that stuff and they were shipping it all up. One of those pieces was on one truck at a time. We had to make sure that we knew which order they were coming in, because that's a very narrow 2-lane road. It's windy, goes along the Baker River. It's not a place where you can get trucks turned around easily. So it's really important to communicate with them, the order that you need that stuff in. We had to call or email back and forth with the crane company, figure out where the crane pad needed to be so that we had the lifting capacity to get out and place those structures where they needed to be. I think the furthest picks were like 95 feet, from the pin to where they go. And they weigh somewhere in the ballpark of 20,000 pounds a piece, some of them more, some of them less. But they're big structures, and having that crane in the appropriate place in order to set those was a big part of having a smooth day, because breaking down and resetting the crane is a huge undertaking, especially if you're in the middle of a process like that. We held a meeting the night before and went over with the entire Piper crew what everybody's responsibilities were, what the lift plan was, the order that we were going to be setting the pieces in, so that at 6:30 when we showed up, everybody's on the same page, everybody knows their responsibilities and they know everybody else's responsibilities, and it makes it makes it easier for everyone to move forward with the process and get the job done. But for all the phone calls and emails and conversations that went into lining all that up, when the crane operator got there, he sat in the seat, his rigger hooked up the first load, and without saying a word, he indicated to him that he needed to raise the load, and then he needed to swing out to the left over the creek channel, and he needed to bring his boom down while carrying the load, meaning have it at the same elevation off the ground, moving away from the crane, and then when it got over the target, he had him lower it into place, and then he went back and just hooked up the next one, and just like that, we went through the process of setting them. But they did all that without having to talk to each other. They actually had never met, the rigger and the operator. They work for the same company, but they work on different crews a lot. But they knew the language that they needed to communicate with one another, and they were able to do this entire job, free of talking, without even looking at each other. A lot of times the rigger is signaling over his shoulder what he needs done, and the operator can see that, and it allows him to do what he's supposed to do. And so that's like a fourth language or form of communication that went into just this one little teeny part of a process. But every stage has communication involved in it, and you guys might not wind up working in bridge construction, but you're going to use communication on a regular basis, whether it be in your job or your personal life. Communication is the key to success in a lot of ways. I actually have a little activity that I'd like to do with you, highlighting the importance of good communication. The handout you have in front of you, the cartoon character is slightly different than these guys, but the signals are the same. You can see there, hoist is the first command that you're giving, and I can show you what it looks like on this crane. This is our little simulated crane, and I'll have, there's not enough of you to get out of volunteering, so you guys are going to have to run it too. But basically what this stuff looks like, there's a rubber band on this for whoever's running it. Just take that off first. So first command is just your hoist is going to be going straight up, raising your load towards the end of your boom. Lower is the opposite of that, and that's just allowing the load to descend from the end of the boom. After that, we have raise boom, which if you're raising the boom alone, the load is coming up and towards the crane at the same time. As you can see, it's getting towards me. The opposite of that, which is this signal, is going to be lower boom, and it's just the opposite. Your load is going further away from the crane and getting closer to the ground. The commands after that are a little more complex. The raise, boom, and lower load is going to keep that load, like I said, when he's going over the creek channel, the load is staying the same distance from the ground, it's just coming closer to the crane. And then the opposite would be to lower your boom and raise the load, which sends the load further away from the crane while keeping it the same distance off of the ground. It's really important, and a good crane operator makes it look very easy, but that plays a role all the time, because often you're going to have either a tag line or a hand on the load making sure it's not spinning, making sure it's not running into stuff. And to have it the same distance off the ground allows for safe handling. It puts it within reach of people, and allows for better transport. Stop is the other one. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's worth knowing. Swinging both arms is always going to be your stop indicator. But yeah, so that is what those things look like. I'm going to have howdy.
Operated crane.
I'll stop for a minute.
I'm going to have somebody come up, run the crane. Somebody else will give visual and verbal commands to start with.
Come on, which one's going to give commands?
Let's go around.
Isaac missed it.
How do I take the, okay.
Give commands.
You just have to swoop it back around the backside.
What you do?
Yep. All right, and so with this hand, you're going to reach out here. The further away from yourself you hold it, the easier it is to hold up. And then keep that hand on the reel, because once you do have a load secured, it'll just free fall if you're not holding on to it.
Is that for real?
The free fall?
Like on a real crane? No.
Nobody's using their hand to reel up a real crane.
Well, yeah, they're using
No, the hand-eye coordination that goes into operating a crane is like a thing of marvel. Like it's incredible to watch somebody that is really good at it doing it, because it really it's subconscious, all the stuff they're doing. Yeah, and so this is just
an excavator this summer, and I was like, oh my gosh.
and I think
But
it's
once you get
much
it,
the
you
same.
know.
When you're good at it, it's like an art form. Cranes are no different, but there's a lot more schooling and stuff and certifications that go into actually running a crane on a job site. But yeah, who's it going to be? Brody, Aiden, is it Isaac? Did I hear?
Yes.
Would you like to give signals?
Sure.
It's just what's on the form there. Give me 1 second. I'm going to.
Oh, we gotta, hold on, we gotta actually think. Lower it down.
So that is going to be where you want the target to wind up.
Go closer to the camera at the same time.
Yes.
So the load is going to be those fishing weights, and your target's going to be into the bucket.
Okay.
So you're going to have to give him, and I will say, from standing in your perspective, your visual signals are always going to be pointing in the direction that you're talking about, but to say it out loud, for you, if you're pointing this way, you're telling him it's go to the right, because
Yeah.
it's his right, not your right.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So, right.
We have to have some, so then you need a bystander that's gonna clip it on.
Yeah, let's go around. Gonna make Miss Roulette do that? The house.
All right, I got it. All right. Don't hit me with it
Boys.
now.
Swing left.
So now you have to tell him to boom and, because he can't move his feet, right?
Not supposed to.
Boom. So raise boom. And then drop it. Lower the. Yeah.
Lower the load.
Ah.
Well,
It's swinging.
saved by the bell. All right.
Nice.
So you can see how easy that went. While everybody's on the same page, everybody can see what's happening. We're going to.
Oh, God, you're blindfolded now. All right.
We're going to use a super sweet pair of crane goggles. Throw those on.
All right, one of you be this guy, and one of you be the teller guy.
Yep. You're both going to have to do it here in a second. Anybody going to guess as to whether or not this is going to be more difficult?
No.
Well, the hand signals don't matter now. It's just audio signals you're giving them. So just talk him through what he has to do in order to get hooked onto the load and then put the load into this bucket. So that was a $50,000 pickup we just ran into.
Raise the
boom.
Do I pull?
Nope, nope, raise the boom. There you go.
Then,
Good.
Fold. That's not
You're gonna boom him down if it needs to get further away, right?
boom down. To your right. Your right. Okay, stop.
That pickup was already dented, it's fine.
You're gonna raise your boom. Go to your left.
Slow.
Slowly, and then stop. Lower. Raise your boom while you're lower. Right there.
Still?
Almost.
Keep going.
All right, nicely done.
You did it.
All right, so you're gonna hoist that back up.
You're like an official crane operator.
All right, and this time, you're gonna come around to this side where I'm standing, and you're gonna stand over there, and you're gonna give hand signals to this guy, and you're gonna give audio signals to the crane operator. So it's gonna be the same thing. We're gonna have our load, doing the same thing. You're gonna stand right in the same
You're a crane
spot.
operator. You're a great crane operator.
And you're listening to Aiden's voice is gonna be the one giving you direction.
Is he going for those again?
He's gotta pick these up and put them back in the bucket.
Go to your left.
But you can't look. You gotta look.
Yeah, you gotta look at just him.
Go to your left.
But don't get hit with the thing. All right. Crane operator, are you listening?
Yeah.
Okay.
Lower.
This is lower.
Stop.
Oh, stop. Stop.
So you're gonna have them hoist back up. So you're gonna give this is hoist and this is lower. I know that the 2D doesn't actually show you the motion of it, but for hoisting and lowering, there's a little bit of motion. And then that raise boom while you're lowering the load, that's actually a hand motion like this, is what you're doing. I think it shows his hand out there a little bit. It doesn't actually highlight that. I think it's better on this picture. Anyway, sorry.
Stop. Go right.
No.
Oh, left.
So you got to give him the other, like, you're going to be pointing the direction you want him to go. And it's confusing doing it in this way. But yeah, you're always going to be pointing the direction you want him to go.
Lower. Stop.
All right, can we hook up?
All right,
I can't see.
I can hook it up. All right, load secured. So you're always going to want to hoist straight up from static load. That way that you load the boom is taking the load.
Alright, stop.
So would it be his?
From where you're standing, you want him to go this way, so you're going to point this way.
Go right.
Like, no.
Raise boom.
Actually. Wait. No.
Lower.
All right, nicely done.
You honestly didn't get hit? I was pretty impressed that you didn't.
It
get
was.
hit.
You were in the danger zone
You
for
were?
sure, but it worked out. Here, I can take that from you. Oh, yep, put the stopper back on. You're the first kid to do that. That was a good call.
Fortunately, that's time for these guys.
Yep,
What'd you guys think?
That's cool.
Say thank you.
That's cool.
Thank you.
thank you.